Welcome, everybody. Season 6, Teague Talks with our great new friend, as always, Mitch Patel. Mitch, thanks for joining us, continuing to be a stalwart in this industry and on Teague Talks. So you're the man. Thank you, sir. So here's what we're doing. This year, we're trying to go back to our roots and give back to COVID when everyone's like, what is happening? So I'm trying to get more to the day-to-day man on the street. Here's what's happening. Tell me. So I want to know your outlook, your vision, all that kind of stuff for 2026 and beyond. And what is Vision Hospitality doing? There's a lot of people freaking out in our industry right now. I'm hoping you can tell us that everything's going to be okay. But and this will be a quick segments for everybody. We're trying to make them real fast and informative. So, Mitch, with that in mind, thank you. But tell me, what's 26 going to be like for you guys?
Yeah, look, before we get into 26, let's quickly talk about
All
25.
right, I'll do that.
25 was a year of uncertainty, right? There's no question, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, in my opinion. I think the fundamentals of the economy were pretty strong, but because of the tax policies, the trade policies, created a lot of uncertainty. And we are a consumer-driven economy, right? 70% of our economy is driven by consumer spending. And by the way, consumer spending is driven by consumer sentiment. So absolutely, what's in your head matters, right? And so it's really important what you say and the actions that are taken by the administration. All those things play out in the marketplace. And what we've seen, it was happening real time, Teague. In April, right, when
Yeah.
people weren't feeling as good, we saw a dip in our portfolio. And then in June, we saw a little uptick in our portfolio. So the booking pace has changed considerably. People are making decisions last minute. And so clearly that was the theme for 25. Now, what some of these self-inflicted wounds, in my opinion, some of it could be reversed, right? And so we could talk about that now in 26 and forward. The other thing that I want to mention in 25, I think another theme for 25 was bifurcation, right? I don't think I've heard that word too many times before then, but there's clearly been a bifurcation. That's an important talking point because, as you know, we go back to the consumer, right? The higher household incomes, right? Their balance sheets look good, right? I mean, they have their home equity doubled. They invested in the stock market, the AI stocks, the
Yep.
Bitcoins, whatever you want to
Yep.
call it. They felt good. And that's why you see so many conversations taking place about the rise of the luxury traveler and then the rise of the $1,000 average rate hotels, which there weren't too many of them before the pandemic. And by golly, I can't even get a room under $1,000 a night now when you go stay at a very nice hotel, right? So clearly, and then when you go to the other spectrum, right? That traveler, inflation hit them harder. When
Right.
eggs go to $10, $12 an hour, it's going to hit them harder. The rent has doubled, right? The credit card debt, 45% of Americans are on credit card debt, and the rates, guess who that customer is, right? And they're paying 22, 24% interest rate. So of course, I'm giving you that backdrop because that's what we're seeing in the marketplace with the economy hotels and then the luxury hotels. So there's just been a tremendous bifurcation that's been happening. Now let's talk about 26. Your question was more about 26, right?
No, but that's a
Um,
fantastic. That's a fantastic. Sorry to cut you off. That's a fantastic segue because everybody's talking about the K economy. You're seeing the stock market at all time high. Oh, by the way, it does matter if you piss off your neighbor Canada and they quit traveling into the hotels, even in Chattanooga, that it has impact. So it's interesting to hear all of that. So
Absolutely. So I think in 26, I hate saying this, but you're going to see a lot of the same. We've got some trade policy issues, but hopefully that will kind of get it resolved. There's some people aren't going to like it, but there's at least more certainty there. The tax policies, there's a little bit more certainty there. And so I think that, and I just had a conversation about this with my HLA meeting that I just had earlier, is, it's election year, Teague, and guess what? People vote with their wallets. And people tend to forget. We Americans have a short-term memory, and so we'll forget about 25. And then when spring and summer come of 26, I think it's really, really important. The administration is going to take these things, I think, even more seriously. And what people are thinking about the general economy, because they're going to be voting with their wallets. And I think that that's going to be very critical. And I want to say also, it's going to be critical as we go into 27 and 28, because 28 is another big election year, right? And so I think that you're going to see some momentum building in the economy with policies that are going to be favorable for all of us. That's just my thoughts and my opinion. So, and then of course there's some demand generators, some really strong demand generators like the FIFA World Cup that's coming. So our portfolio, let me zero in a little bit on our portfolio. We have 44 hotels in now 8 states. So nothing like these big REITs that have hundreds of hotels in 20 or 30 states. So our sample size is a little bit smaller, but we were down slightly in RevPAR in 25. And a lot of it was due to some renovations that we had. We had significant amount of renovations that were taking place. The government business piece is very hyper localized. That impacted a couple of our hotels. But I'll tell you, in 26, we're looking at a couple of point growth in RevPAR, and absolutely. And I know the pundits are saying it'll
Yeah.
be flat to very, very moderate, but disproportionately, we think that with the FIFA World Cup, I mean, significant amount of our hotels are going to be positively impacted. A tremendous amount of booking with group in the convention calendar. Obviously leisure, we all know that it's kind of flattened out and even softened in many markets. And then corporate, we're seeing a lot of this corporate group, small regional corporate meetings accelerate. And I see a couple of these public company CEOs outside of the hotel industry told me this 4 years ago, and I never forgot this. They said that, look, I'm like encouraging them to get your people back to the office, right? Why are you encouraging them to stay at home? And of course, one of the big incentives for them is they're saving money, by doing that, by the way, a lot of
Right.
these big public companies. But they did tell me this, that you're going to see, Mitch, more travel with regional and group type meetings. And why? Because they feel like culture is going to be negatively impacted with all these people working from home, and they have to come together and meet in person. So that's what I think you're seeing, that the business travel is obviously not back at the level of 19, but you're seeing this group travel continue to grow. So that's a little bit of what's happening in our portfolio, but beyond 26, I'm very optimistic.
Mitch, this is great. You're incredible. That's why I had you on, and I appreciate you doing it. Give me, and I think I agree with everything you said, but it's fun to listen to the different perspectives and your feet on the ground so you know it. Talk to me about you specifically and transactions. So buying, selling, developing. What's your 26?
Yeah, look, every company, Teague, creates value differently, right? So historically, we've created value through development. As you know, we're known as
Always.
that developer, right?
Yes.
The brand companies love us, right? Those developers.
Well, because you're great at it
So
and you can do it cheaper and more efficient and more, even better than the next guy. So it's a
yeah,
secret
absolutely. Look,
sauce.
so I want to just touch on something. We looked at our portfolio, and you've heard me say this before. It just came to me and said, you know what?
I was going to
These
ask.
hotels are like beer, and some of these hotels in our portfolio are like wine. And the beer, of course, can get stale and has a shelf life to it, right? And the value could depreciate over time, where wine can appreciate over time, and it's something that you could keep for a long period of time, of course. And so we looked at our portfolio and we realized that, okay, wow, some of these tertiary markets, suburban hotels that are 15 or 20 years
Over.
already old. I mean, we should be really rethinking our strategy. I mean, are we really
Yes.
going to keep it for another 20 years? And so I think that the first time in our company's history that we've identified that a significant number of our hotels that we should look for disposition. Now, of course, right now is not the best time, right, in the current environment and where we're at. But in the next 2 to 3 years, absolutely. And I think I know the person to call, right? So to help me with that. And then in terms
Your
of
best friend.
purchasing hotels, there's opportunities absolutely out there for acquisitions, but we haven't really seen something that we really want for the price that we want to pay, right? And so when you don't see something you really want and it's not available for the price that you want to pay, then what do you have to do, Teague? You create it, right? And so, and you said it, this is something that we become very, very good at, right? But the key word, Teague, is discipline. You can make 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you can make a lot of mistakes and still be successful, right? Not today. There's laser thin opportunity there, there's no room to make
Yeah.
mistakes. So, what is that formula for us? Number one, brands, right? Not all brands are equal. I say this all the time. The average Chick-fil-A does 9.5 million in revenue, and the average Bojangles does 2 million. Well, guess what? The land cost, the construction cost, the kitchen equipment cost is the same. Doesn't take a genius. I don't need analysts to tell me where I'm going to make more money here, right? So I think the brand is so, so critical, not just within the Hilton or Marriott or IHG family or Hyatt family, laser focused on which brands within the family that we want to focus on. And really, it's only going to be about 4 to 5 brands that we're going to focus on going forward. And then the markets, right? I said this. We started talking about the macro picture, Teague, but I'll have to say that I don't know. I can't remember when the macro picture has ever been less relevant. Now, let me explain. This has become a Main Street corner store business than ever. And I think you see that every day, right? And
Yes.
so it's about the brand, it's about the market, it's about the location within the market. It's about basis, right? It's about basis. And you and I talked about it on a flight to LA, right? About the basis. And when someone else is going to bill it for 250 a key and we could bill it for 200, 210 a key, that's a big difference. And so we are very, very disciplined in our approach and how we develop. We have a simple philosophy on development. Place money where guests notice and save money where guests don't care. I've never seen on TripAdvisor anyone comment on steel, rebar, concrete, retaining walls, and those things, right? So we have a really, really focused approach on how we build our hotels, and that's really important. And then this is really, really important. The last pillar is how you operate your hotels have become more important than ever. And that is, a 4.7 rating to a 4.2 rating
Yeah.
for your hotel in this transparent world that we live in can be all the difference in success and mediocrity, right? And so I think it's really, really important. So we've doubled down on our culture. We've doubled down on how we are approaching our operations. And I'm really proud to say that we could talk about the macro economic picture all day long, T. We could spend hours talking about it. But I tell my team, this is what we're going to do. We're going to focus on things that we can control, right? And the things that we can control is our market share, our guest satisfaction, right? and our profitability and our margins. And so we actually increased guest satisfaction, increased market share, and increased margins. I can't tell you how many people have done that in the last 2 years and as a portfolio. And so those things are what gives us confidence that, you know what, let's continue to grow. Let's continue to do what we've done really, really well for the last almost 30 years. And so we have an active pipeline of another, 7, 8 hotels right now, and another 6 to 7 that we're going to probably develop behind that. And we're pretty confident because the key is you got to be confident in the future. We like building into the noise. We did that in 2010 and 11, and 14 hotels we opened from 11 to 13. They're some of our most successful hotels in our entire portfolio because of what I just said, the brand, the basis, and all that. And so we think that that this is a good time to be building when most people would probably disagree with me. Construction costs have actually flattened and started tapering. Interest rates have started obviously going down, right? So we think that 2 years from now, we're going to be in a much better place. Newer is better, that, and you could really, really command a premium with rate and market share if you're doing the right thing. So, and I forgot to mention, come on, supply is going to be muted.
Muted.
Well under 1%. It was that for a couple of years, and now it looks like that's what it's going to look like for a few years from now. There's that saying Warren Buffett has said, investors should be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. We quoted him quite a bit back in 2010 and 11 and so forth. And I'm going to use the word opportunistic because greedy is not a good hospitality word. And we think that when others are pulling back, when others are a little scared, it's actually a good time for us to be more bullish.
I mean, you're fantastic. That's what makes you so successful too, Mitch. So I think you're leaning in. And you're an optimist. We're optimists. So that's what we've been saying, even though we're hearing all these negatives from our Wall Street friends and our New York and the pundits and the experts. I'm going to make you go negative. Give me your disruptors. What do you see as what are the potential disruptors for the year?
I'm keeping an eye on all these metrics, right? What's happening with inflation? What's happening with GDP growth? Consumer sentiment. We talked about that. But the one very important metric that we need to keep an eye on is the job growth picture, unemployment picture, right?
Okay.
Because there's never been a true correction, or hate using the R word, recession, with full employment.
Right.
And so, as you know, the November data that just came out, our unemployment ticked up to about 4.6. That's about the highest it's been in about 4 years. And so I think that's an important number to keep in mind. How much of it is true shedding of jobs because production has diminished, or how much of it is this whole recalibration that's happening with the AI world that we live in today, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how all of that could potentially disrupt our business. And the other thing I've got to say this, what keeps me up at night is, keep in mind, we both have been through many storms. As you know, I love analogies. And 2001, the great financial crisis was one of the worst storms since they've been recording statistics. We could not think there would be another storm worse than that. And then in 2020, the worst storm hit our industry ever. But let's be very clear about that storm. It disproportionately impacted our industry. It was a medical crisis, not an economic crisis, right? That's why we rebounded back real quickly, because people had money. They just couldn't go travel and go out and do things for health reasons and so forth. So we can't pat ourselves on the back too hard there and say, we're smarter, we're better now. So what keeps me up at night is rate deterioration. We saw demand soften, occupancy dip, but rates were still continuing to climb. We can't afford to do that, Teague, right? You know this. Revenues have gone up, but expenses have gone up at a greater rate. Cost of labor, cost of goods, insurance, property taxes. Man, I just got, I don't know, 10 of our hotels got reassessed. I'm like going, are you tone deaf? You know what's happening out there? And property taxes have gone up, some cases 50%. And then in many cases, the debt service is going up too. You know that as refinancing are taking place. So it's really difficult out there. And so when you start seeing any type of rate deterioration, we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want to go to jail. But we as an industry have to do a better job, okay? And not look at 2020 as the example of how we did a better job. And so if you go back to the previous cycles, it took years to get back. And so that's what I worry about the most. And hopefully we've learned and we're smarter, and revenue management and technology is and confidence, it's important, but we've got to talk about it. If we don't talk about it as an industry, then it's not going to happen. And so we need to do a much better job. Otherwise, there could be a lot of challenges, more than what we're even dealing with right now.
But I'm not seeing any rate degradation. Yeah, are you? I'm
No,
not seeing any signs of that. All right.
I'm not
You just don't
seeing
want to
that
get
right
there.
now. It is in pockets, when you're seeing quite a bit of demand drop off in certain markets and certain segments, you're starting to see that because they feel like that's the only way they're going to get consumers in the door. And we all know that dropping rates do not induce demand.
Is this still a good industry to be in? You still glad you're in the hotel business?
I think it's the best. I think it's the best industry to be in. Absolutely. Come on. I could be a traffic engineer down in Atlanta, which you live down there, and what a horrible job that I did those few years that I was there with the traffic problems that you're probably dealing with. But yeah, look, we could be doing some other things. We are blessed. We are blessed that we get to do something that we love. And, the World Cup is coming, right? The FIFA World Cup is coming in summer of next year in the United States. What a great opportunity for us to host the world. And they call that game the beautiful game, right? I call our business the beautiful business. I really do. I mean, I think it's a beautiful business. Think about it. What a great stories. This industry has been the pathway to the American dream for thousands and thousands of people, including my own family, right? What a great industry to grow, not just as a job, but to build a meaningful career. And so many great examples. We toured 34 of our 44 hotels last week, and so many great examples of a housekeeper going on to become a general manager in our company. I mean, that is just so rewarding. Talk about purpose, right? Yeah, and then I'm not even there at the guests. Guests get to celebrate at our hotels, right? Celebrate, with business dealings to anniversaries, to birthdays, the food and beverage outlets that we have in our organization. So yeah, it's a beautiful business, and I think that the better days are ahead.
You are a true hotelier, dude. That you're the definition of a hotelier. I think I am too. You're preaching to the choir. So you're here. It's either in your DNA, you live it, love it. But there are plenty those at Wall Street that are, and other pundits that are not hoteliers, and that might be ready to move on to a different segment of the real estate industry. But I digress. So I'm glad you're in it. That's why you're supposed to be the guy leading the charge, the guy with the mic, the guy carrying the baton for all of us. So cheers. Thanks for being that leader for us. Mitch, you're the man, CEO of Vision Hospitality. You're a great leader. You're a great hotelier, unofficial mayor of Chattanooga, all the things that we know. And I love having you on. I love chatting with you anytime, and I'm glad we're friends. Thank you for coming to share your thoughts and wisdom with the industry. Again, I'm buttering you up. It's important for everybody to hear from you. They need to hear this kind of stuff from leaders, feet on the ground, doing it every day. If you visited 34 hotels in 24 hours, you're doing something right.
It's 4 days, but close. Yeah.
I know how you got around. All right, you're the man. Thanks for coming, Mitch. Let's do this again.
Thank you for having me, Teague. Appreciate it.